Hello YouTube, I'm News Center Maine meteorologist Jason Nappi tracking the tropics. Yes, still in the Atlantic hurricane season for the Atlantic Basin, and we got another one. A tropical storm here, just named, this is Philippe, San Juan, okay, north of Puerto Rico. Torrential downpours going on. You can see here on the satellite picture, and I have the colors here, the infrared, so you can really see where the thunderstorms are popping. A lot of torrential rain going on, downpours around Puerto Rico. And that's going to head up towards Bermuda and then eventually New England and Atlantic Canada. So I'll be talking about that in a few minutes. So grab a slice of pizza, ice cream, your favorite beverage, and let's get into it. Basically, this system has been enduring a lot here, a lot of wind shear, okay? So think about kind of higher in the sky, the wind kind of trying to knock this thing down, right? And what's happening is here, it's fighting strong, and it's enduring that battle here. So you see all of the convection with this storm is here on the south side. It's moving north and northwest just a bit, and we'll talk a look about that here as I zoom in and show you the tropical satellite. You can tell this storm does not look very pretty. It doesn't have the circle you'd think you'd have with a strong hurricane or even a major. This is nothing like Lee, nothing like really Ophelia. This is a whole different system here that is torrential, just downpours on top of San Juan. But the hurricane hunters are flying into it. So once again, the center of the storm north of Puerto Rico, but all the convection here to the south, okay, because of that wind shear. It's been tearing it apart. And we'll take a look at what the hurricane hunters are finding with the storm. 47 mile per hour, 10-second wind there. You see northeast of the Virgin Islands, pressure about 1,003 millibars. So once again, the storm is fighting. Once again, the hurricane hunters are doing the cross sections, flying through, and they have at least a tropical storm. So right now, that's what it is. But it will head north, and it will hold intensity as a tropical storm. It's going to have warm water that's fueling it, but it's also going to have more wind shear, so likely kind of cancel each other out, and then it heads north and gets into the cooler waters, which I'll talk about, around Maine and Atlantic Canada, with impacts there somewhat similar to Lee, but not quite, I don't expect, as strong. The latest stats coming in from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. 45 mile an hour wind, that's sustained, gusts to 60, so it's a good tropical storm. And then movement north-northwest at 7, around high pressure to the north. Pressure 1,004 millibars, so that matches up very well with the hurricane hunters at 1,003. And there it is, a center north of San Juan, convection to the south and east of it. Into Thursday morning, the latest track takes it south of Bermuda, north of Puerto Rico, still a tropical storm here. And that Friday morning at 9 o'clock, 50 mile per hour winds as it heads up north, once again, potentially right over Bermuda, with some torrential rain. And then as we get to Saturday, this is where the interaction is happening with the storm and an area of low pressure, a big trough to the west. And that's going to help to kind of absorb it and pull it north. Now what happens here as it gets around west of Halifax over towards Maine with this storm, does it get completely absorbed by the front? Most likely. Is it a tropical storm at that time? Probably not. It's probably more like a remnant low or post-tropical and then heads up to eastern Canada by Sunday into Monday. So for Philippe, here's what I know and what I don't know. And yes, there's a lot of obviously questions going this far out, but I'm going to put myself out there for you and tell you what I know. It is fighting wind shear, but it's going to hold on and move north as a tropical storm. Weekend travel around Maine and over towards Nova Scotia, Atlantic Canada, outdoor activities, those will be impacted. As far as what I don't know, it's the exact track of the storm. And it's not going to make a huge difference, but around that center, there is going to be a little bit more wind and some waves. How quickly does it go post-tropical? Not really a big issue right now because that's going to be most likely just a tropical storm and not a major hurricane, but still, I have to keep an eye on that. And it's a Maine or Atlantic Canada storm. That's the best look at it things here on the model tracks as I show you now. Very good agreement in the models here, heading it up towards Bermuda. Then you're going to see a wide range in the spaghetti plot. So take the spaghetti, you throw it on the map or on the wall, of your house to see if the spaghetti's ready. Well, I can tell you there's two areas that I'm tracking and focusing here. The clusters with the spaghetti plot here. And right now, around Nova Scotia, mostly west of Halifax, but Halifax still in that area. Yarmouth, back towards Nova Scotia, Bay of Fundy, and then you head over here towards down east Maine, right here. So about, we'll call it Hancock County East or true down east, as they say, over towards Eastport. The mid-coast still could get in on this, and especially there will be impacts of the mid-coast. I'll talk about why in a second, but that's where I have the threat zone. So not a landfall situation, and once again, this should be a tropical storm, not a hurricane. So I made one typo there, but you get the idea. Threat zone carved out here in red, where I think impacts will be. Once again, tropical storm to post-tropical, not a hurricane. Made one typo there, but let's one take this, shall we? 83-degree bath water is where this storm is sitting, and because of that, it has enough fuel to endure the wind shear. That's a big factor right now. But once the storm moves north, however, and it cuts off from the Gulf Stream off the coast of Cape May, New Jersey, and gets into this water, which is not really terribly cold for this time of the year, but still, it's going to lose that strength. And remember, the job of tropical systems is to take all of that latent heat from the equator and take it up to the North Pole or down to the South Pole, right? So you got to take it that way. You need steering currents to get it there. So high pressure, the biggest influence, the steering current from this storm Thursday afternoon. And there is the tropical storm. So I got the icon right for that one. Now, there's Bermuda, that dot. Now watch here as I put the map into motion here. You watch this high that's been giving us great weather in New England, northern New England, but torrential rain because it's squished all that rain down towards New York City, that devastating flooding. Well, that high is finally heading out of here. Okay, so here's that storm going right over Bermuda. It's going to be Philippe. It's going to be a tropical storm. And then off to the west, start to enter stage, to the left. You see this area of low pressure. This trough is going to absorb Philippe, and this high is going to steer it in between the trough and into the trough, into that cold front. So that's why you're going to have the storm lose its tropical characteristics as we get into the weekend. Wave heights with this storm are not going to be anything incredibly high. However, it will have some time to strengthen. And as it's in the open Atlantic, notice the wave heights start going up around 15 and even 20 feet. Not near shore, but definitely the impacts are there for the shipping routes. And then by Sunday afternoon, on the eastern side here towards Halifax and Nova Scotia, that's where you get around those 20-footers. And even here in the Gulf of Maine, especially not the southern coast or the sea coast or the North Shore, because we're shielded just a bit by Cape Cod, but definitely mid-coast to down east certainly could have some 10 to 15, even 20-footers there, mostly offshore and near shore, not quite making it into the bay. Now, I want to track Philippe in the rain because that's really just a big impact with this storm. Here's the high. I can tell you that's definitely high pressure. Here's all the rain associated with it. Now, you've got this area that's going to consolidate, area of low pressure. At this point, most likely going post-tropical, and there it is, throwing all of that rain into Maine as we get into Saturday night and Sunday morning, with some wraparound showers on Monday. So here's what you need to know. You're thinking about soccer games this weekend, Saturday or Sunday early, depending on what time the games are. It's most likely going to be a post-tropical storm by the time it gets to here in Maine or even Atlantic Canada. Rain, waves, wind, all are going to be a local threat depending on where you are. And there is a power outage threat. We haven't had a lot of rain in Maine, actually really none the last 2 weeks, so that's helped with the root system, and it would be more of an kind of a small stream urban situation if that were to happen, depending on how close it gets versus a widespread threat. Now, as far as the wind field with this storm goes into Friday afternoon, notice the wind here is on the eastern side of the storm, and then eventually, as here, it'd probably be the strongest part is where it's going to be. There's Cape May, New Jersey. It's sitting over the Gulf Stream. That's most likely the last-ditch effort for this storm to have some strengthening, and also interacting with the front is going to give it some strengthening too, kind of like a shot of energy, like a steroid shot. And then you're going to see the wind field just take it way up north. So I'm not expecting a ton of wind from this in the next couple of days. I'll get into more specifics with the wind, but definitely there will be some wind, especially in the northern eastern side. Hour by hour in Maine here, I'm standing in front of Nova Scotia, so I apologize for our friends there. But right now, the European model wants to take this storm into down east Maine. And this is while you're waking up on Sunday morning with torrential downpours happening on the north and northwest side of the storm, as if it were to landfall, even though it really wouldn't be technically a landfall. But if it were to come into down east, that's where the heaviest rain would be. But then on Sunday, we're clearing for the Oxford Hills and the southern coast, and the storm gets out of here. As far as the rainfall amounts, this is going to fluctuate with the track of the storm. But certainly on the table is 2 or 3 inches of rain, which would cause that small stream and urban situation, depending on where this goes. Could even be behind me here over towards Nova Scotia. So I have to watch it very closely because it still could cause some problems. So that is one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat from this storm, would be the urban flooding, the small streams, and the heaviest rain is going to be, once again, that should be a tropical storm, not a hurricane icon. So that's 2 typos or 2 mistakes I made. But once again, we're one taking it. So here we go with the socials. If you want to follow along, I'll be tracking this on them the next few days as I break down what Philippe and its remnants will do to New England, to Maine. And I thank you so much for watching, commenting, engaging as we look at this storm as it gets into the next few days, into the weekend. There will be impacts to travel and your weekend plans, and I'll have those for you coming up shortly.